Well, hey, and welcome to another episode of Beetle Dustino coming at you again today with yet another video. And finally, I've got at least one physical copy of it. But anyways, it's here, Anthology 4, along with the Anthology collection. I'm waiting on my actual collection, but I've got at least a copy of Anthology 4 here. And I also got my review ready. So let's see what the disc looks like and hear my review after the intro. So I don't know what is going on with the shipping this weekend here, but the big release, the Beatles big release, and the Anthology collection, and then Anthology 4 standalone has happened this weekend, November 21st of 2025, almost 30 years to the day that the original one came out. Well, the Anthology 1 just on its own. But we got the new one here. We got Anthology 4. Finally got released. I did, believe it or not, pick up a CD copy of the standalone version of it. I didn't get a vinyl one yet. I think I'm just going to hold out until I see a good sale come up on the vinyl collection and get that. That $400 price point has just got me a little... and I know UDiscover always does those 40% off, 50% off sales as the year kind of comes to an end. So that's been my little secret. I think I said something in a video a while back that I'm kind of holding out on the vinyl one, and I got a good reason, and that's it. So hopefully they'll do those sales. If not, I'm sure it'll come down. I heard it's already down quite a bit on Amazon. So that's my plan. Anyways, I wanted to get the individual copy of this because I do got the box set coming, but I feel like my old 1, 2, and 3 need a standalone helper with them. So I did get a copy of the standalone 4. Nice thing on this, because I see the box sets don't have a hype sticker. This does have a hype sticker. So let's take a look at that. There we go. And I'll read it off. I have no idea what it says. The Beatles Anthology 4, a career-spanning view of the Beatles' creative process in the studio and beyond, includes 13 previously unreleased tracks, rare recordings and rehearsals, plus the new Jeff Lynne mixes of Free as a Bird and Real Love, and the final single, Now and Then. So there we go. Take a quick look at everything on the back here, including it was made in Germany, so at optimal, which usually means pretty good quality. One thing I've been very excited on, I know some people haven't, me and Mr. Mayo, and also I think Canadian Stud Muffin was a little upset, but they are using the Digi Sleeve, not Digi Pack, Digi Sleeve packaging that's been in style with the Beatles since 2009 when they did the stereo remasters, and pretty much everything since, aside from the Anthology, Let It Be Naked, and the Beatles Love. However, the Beatles Love, it is available in Italy and France, and Portugal and Spain. There we go. There is a version that you could get there in the new package. But other than that, it's just been a handful of albums that haven't got this updated packaging. Now, the Anthology did finally get it. So, however, 1, 2, and 3 are only available in the box set, but they are in this same type of packaging. So let's get this cracked open and just take a look, because my review is long. So, yeah, that's kind of weird. I'm telling you that right now, knowing that. Because I'm filming this after the review. I've been sitting waiting all afternoon, and I thought, well, I'll get the review going. So we're going to crack this open, and I didn't show you right away. Seems like we're all showing this now. I'm using the Sgt. Pepper's pick. Got the Sgt. Pepper shirt on, too, so I guess that's maybe why. Plus, as you'll see tomorrow, I got another kind of pepper-related somewhat thing coming out. So I kind of purposely picked the Pepper shirt for that. There we go. And wow, that was taking a bit to get off, but there we got it off. Let's take a look at everything outside of the shrink. One thing I've been worried about, I know like the Live at the BBC stuff, the spine with the double disc, even some of the Red and the Blue album stuff. Oh yeah, there's the track list. Kind of hold it there for just a bit. But the spines have been really crushing it, and I've noticed on this, the spines are really holding up well. All the box set unboxings I've seen, even the individual ones, I've seen a couple of people show the individual Anthology 4, the spines are really holding up well. So I don't know if that's something with it being pressed at optimal. As we always try to say, it's usually a pretty good sign of quality. Well, it does seem like they're even focusing on the packaging there. So really good on that. And I'm glad that my individual copy here is looking that way. So as I said, we're kind of looking at that same packaging we've been getting since 2009 with the stereo remasters and a lot of things since. So this kind of tri-fold. So here's kind of the first fold on it. The nice little pocket kind of diagonally cut here that holds in the booklet. Got the Anthology 4 there. And we open it up fully. Get the mural there on the full tri-fold opening. I always like to show kind of it on the back side there too. Let's take a quick look at the booklet. Kind of show you with the booklet out there. A little bit of the artwork kind of continued there. Nice thick booklet though. Let's see here. I got a shirt with that image on it. I should have wore that too. But yeah, what I'm seeing here, this first kind of, I've seen other unboxings and that, but just first me seeing it in person, and it's definitely Anthology. One thing I'm noticing is really glossy. The outside packaging, I didn't mention that, super glossy. The booklet too, I can feel as I'm kind of flipping the pages here, is really glossy. So kind of nice on that. Just giving you a quick, good idea. I'm not really trying to hold it. I'm flipping every page, but like I always say, if you want to read it or whatever, or look at the picture better, get yourself a copy. That's why we're kind of showing this, is kind of give you a good idea of what's out there, but not for you to read everything and enjoy the pictures and that. You want to do that, get your own copy there. So anyways, and kind of ending off with the now and then video there. I'll hold that one just a little longer. One of the screen grabs from that, I think that's a cool little touch. There's the back of the booklet there. I know everybody complains about how hard it is to pull these out and that, you know, this type of packaging will damage your disc. Well, it won't if you get a rice paper sleeve. You can get a packet of 100 of them off of Amazon for less than $10. But there is disc 1. I've been really impressed with how good the apple has turned out on this. It looks like a nice bright apple, not these dark apples that we've been getting lately. However, seeing it in person, it looks a little darker than I thought. And let's see, there's the disc 2 with the cut apple. And we of course do have the kind of the, I already put disc 1 back in, but you do got the artwork kind of continued underneath those. I've always really liked this packaging. I think the Beatles have done with this style. It's some of my favorite packaging because I like how the booklet is kind of the diagonal cut there, that you got the booklet right there, nice easy access. I don't have trouble pulling the disc out. Yeah, sometimes it is a little tough of a pull, but as long as you're careful and not, you know, and just tearing it apart, you're not going to have trouble with it. And like I always say, with your vinyl, everybody puts stuff in protective sleeves. We always put the disc in a different sleeve, also inner sleeve. You know, like a polylined one of some sort, or we keep it in the polylined one if it's got a polylined one. But, you know, do the same with your CDs. So there's no point moaning about cardboard CD packaging, because we've dealt with cardboard packaging on vinyl forever. That's the only way vinyls ever came. And we've learned how to take care of it. And that's the same with your CDs. And do not take your CDs in your car. Do not take your CDs like this in the car. Get a Case Logic case and take the disc individually in the Case Logic case. This is just to keep on your shelf. This is to take into your car. So there's my PSA on caring for your CDs. So anyways, that is Anthology 4, unshrinked, unboxed, whatever we want to call it here. Well, let's get on with the review here. So yeah, I've been listening to it on streaming since Friday. I've heard it through at least 3 times now. I'm really surprised at myself. I've at least listened, at least the new stuff I've heard at least 3 times. So I'm doing pretty good for myself on this. So, but yeah, let's kind of break down, and I'm going to go do a little different than what everybody else has been doing. Everybody else has been focusing on those 13 tracks, and I'm pretty much going to just focus on those, but at least with the other tracks, I'm going to talk a little about them, at least enough to say where you can also find them, because this isn't the first time they're obviously on release here on an album or even a single in one of the cases here. So let's get going with that, and we'll start with the first track on Anthology 4, which is I Saw Her Standing There, Take 2. Now, this one is maybe a little obscure because it's only been available on a streaming version, which is the Beatles Bootlegs 1963. Beatles Bootleg Recordings, and I should have a picture of kind of the album cover there. It was at the time an iTunes exclusive. I don't know if Spotify has got it now, but it's readily available out there if you do want to go find this kind of rare. It was a streaming only thing, iTunes exclusive for a long time, and it's a pretty good little set actually, because you do get a lot of Please Please Me and With the Beatles kind of outtakes, plus some other like demos and stuff that weren't even intended for the albums. A few of those like songs that other artists ended up doing that were Lennon McCartney things. So a couple of those that, you know, this is kind of a nice place to have those. Plus there's a lot of BBC recordings from 1963, which I almost jokingly dub the the Live at the BBC Volume 3, because there's a lot more of the BBC stuff than there is of the outtake stuff. But there is still plenty of the outtake stuff. I think there's, I don't know, almost maybe 15 or 16 or so outtake stuff. And the rest of it, and it's a big album. There's a lot on there. But yeah, a lot of BBC stuff on that. But that is where you first had that. And then the other one that is also off of that would be the track 2, which is Money, That's What I Want, Reduction Mix 7, underdubbed. So just both of them are kind of just good takes on that. I've been pretty familiar with both because I've been listening to that Beatles Bootlegs Recordings album for a while, pretty much since it came out in, was it 2013? And I do revisit it quite often because I love those BBC tracks. I'm a big Live at the BBC fan, as I'm sure people know that have watched my channel. So any BBC tracks I always love listening to. So but moving on, and I forgot to get this down, so let me grab this quick. Track 3 is This Boy Takes 12 and 13, which was also available on the Free as a Bird CD single. It wasn't on the vinyl single. There was a 7-inch vinyl, which just had Free as a Bird and Christmas Time Is Here Again, which didn't make sense to be on a what's kind of associated with Anthology 1 time period. But this did release around Christmas time, so I suppose they wanted to have kind of the Christmas song on there. But yeah, you can see track 3 on it of the 4 tracks. Is This Boy, which would be the version that is on Anthology 4. This one is, I do have a little note here on it. John kind of opens up with this, get this bloody little mic out of the way, and then Paul kind of tries to calm him down and, you know, says, don't be nervous, John, he says. And it's a pretty good little take because they mess up quite a bit and they get the this and the that's mixed up and a lot of laughing, and, you know, obviously John was a little nervous at the beginning, but, you know, as it got going there, it did kind of cool down there. And I think it's always been a fun one. I've always liked listening to it on the Free as a Bird single here. So nice to have another area where you can get this, because it's kind of, you know, just listening to 4 tracks on this. It's nice to have it on a full album, I guess. So I'm trying to be positive here. So moving on to track 4, and this is one of the first tracks that we do have a truly new outtake here, and it is Tell Me Why takes 4 and 5. Yeah, I really love them kind of working out the notes and the lines of the song there at the beginning there. That's one thing I've always loved about Anthology. You saw my video the other day, kind of what Anthology means to me. I liked hearing the studio banter and all that you got on the anthologies with these outtakes and that, and really getting to know their personalities and how they all worked with each other. Obviously that last one, This Boy, you know, Paul kind of calming John down, and then it turned into, you know, the nice fun laughter and everything. So that's always been, you know, a big highlight of listening to any of the Anthology albums. And they seem to carry it on pretty good with Anthology 4 here, that we are kind of carrying on with that tradition from 30 years ago that they started. I love Paul in this. You made a mistake. I know you did. And just having fun, and, you know, but, you know, you kind of see how it goes with that. But yeah, that's a really good take, a really good one to add on to this. Love having that on here. We move on to track 5 with If I Fell, Take 11. I got 2 kind of sets of notes. I got a printout of the track list here, and then I've got my notes on each individual song here, so I'm kind of bouncing between the two, so I apologize for that. But yes, If I Fell, take 11. I said another good kind of studio banter one here on that. And I really was trying to find where this was, and correct me if I'm wrong out there, but it seems like there's another version of If I Fell out there, another outtake, and I could not find it on Anthology 1, and I can't think of where else it would be. But I swear there's another version of it, and they all start just kind of laughing, and they mess up in one of the lines, and they with the harmonies, and they all start kind of just laughing. I swear I've heard another version of this. It wasn't this exact one. It wasn't take 11, but it was another take. And I swear I've heard that. I don't listen to bootlegs, so I'm really kind of curious where I came across that. But anyways, we'll move on to track 6, and we got Matchbox Take 1. And this was a really good vocal from Ringo, quite different from what ended up being the recording that we know, and more just kind of a straight vocal on it, and really good Ringo vocal. And I know I heard that Carl Perkins was in the studio for this, which was really kind of interesting, them covering Carl Perkins and how big of a fan of Carl Perkins they were. I mean, if it wasn't for Carl Perkins, I've heard people say this, wasn't for him, there'd be no Beatles. So yeah, that was really kind of cool on that, and a nice addition on this. Track 7 is Every Little Thing, takes 6 and 7. I absolutely love this song. Everybody always puts down Beatles for Sale, and even I haven't ranked it that high, but there's several tracks off of Beatles for Sale that I just really love. And this one was another good one with, the studio banter and everything. Paul burps. And that was part of my note here, was Paul burps. And and I do miss the timpani drum though on it. I know everybody's been saying that too, that it's such a signature of that song, that boom boom, in it. And I still love this version though. I just absolutely love this song. So it's good to hear layering, which is another kind of a theme you're going to kind of catch throughout my review on this. I love hearing the layering and the different ways that it came to be with what we're so familiar with. Part of why I love the Lennon Ultimate Collection boxes, because you do get all those elemental mixes and evolution documentaries and stuff, and that's kind of what Anthology is in a way, for the Beatles, that we're hearing that different layering on how it came to be with what we're so familiar with. We'll move on to track 8, which is I Need You, Take 1. Really interesting how sped up this take of it is. I mean, it is the first take, so I mean, you're going to develop it, and okay, maybe that didn't sound so great, so let's try it this way. It also seems like they did rehearse this quite often, because this was a really good take. I like the way that it turned out. I like the slower version of it, but it's really cool getting to hear kind of a different thought and a different pathway that they were kind of thinking of on it. So really kind of cool on that. Another one I'm really glad that made the cut on this. Oh yeah, and I noticed, I did listen to all the my last listen of it. I did have my headphones on it. A couple of the listens actually, I did have headphones on, but there was a lot of laughing in the background on that take. So I don't think they were planning that they were keeping that one at all, because boy, somebody was really chuckling it up in the background there. And we're moving on to be still on LP1, but side 2. I guess we're now flipping the track over as I'm flipping my notes over too. So, but the 9th track overall, and it's I've just seen a face, and it's take 3. And I said, they can make this even that much faster, so fast that Lennon breaks a string. So, I love this song. I've always loved this song too. Really kind of a fun take on it. I know he still sings this pretty regularly here and there. I think he was doing it on the Got Back tour, wasn't he? So yeah, it's a song I've always loved though. We'll move on to track 10, which is In My Life, take 1. And my note on this was, I just love hearing a song I love so much develop. In My Life is one of those, I mean, just iconic, perfect Beatles songs that I know a lot of us love, and me in particular. I'm a huge Rubber Soul fan, so I absolutely love this song. And yeah, it's just so cool getting to hear these songs develop. And like I said, we're going to see a theme of this with the layering and the development, and that kind of getting a new take on the song on it. Next up is track 11, the 11th track on it all together, which would be Nowhere Man, first version take 2. I said, interesting take on the acapella opening on it, but then it turned into an instrumental. So, I said it was kind of great to hear that instrumental layering with everything else in there. You're not picking up some of that stuff quite as much. And it's really kind of good to hear that. I just wish they didn't do so many instrumentals on this. As we're going to hear, there's several instrumentals on Anthology 4. Still, it's always fun to kind of hear that. Moving on to track 12, which has Got to Get You Into My Life, second version, unnumbered mix. And this is going to be one of the first ones. This one we've had. And this is obviously off of the Revolver Super Deluxe Edition box. Now, one thing a lot of people were kind of saying is, well, not everybody got these big boxes, so maybe that's part of why they chose to put these on there. True, but these big boxes have been available streaming also, so it's not like it's been impossible to get. And most of us, even those of us that moan and groan about streaming, seem to be subscribed to Spotify or Apple Music or something. So if you couldn't afford this, more than likely you're already subscribed and got access to it through streaming. But, and I was really kind of curious on this because nobody's talked about this yet either, hasn't been available outside of the Super Deluxe Edition. And yes, a few of these have. This one is not in that case though. But I do love the fuzz guitar on this, kind of the take on that with that. So moving on to track 13, which is Love You To Take 7. Again, we're on the Revolver Super Deluxe Edition box, but you can also get this, aside from streaming, in another place on the 2 CD set. That's what I was really kind of curious about. Everybody was like, either they couldn't afford the big box, so maybe they only got the 2 CD. Well, it's here too. So I don't know if that is a good enough excuse on this anymore. So anyways, it's still good to have it here, I guess, though, too. So I'm trying not to be super negative on this, but I wish they would have found some more songs to fill in these other holes here, that stuff that we've had for quite a while on some of these. But anyways, moving on to track 14, which is Strawberry Fields Forever, take 26. Again, I guess one unique thing on this is the first time on vinyl for this version. So I guess there's something there with that. The other two from Revolver were available on vinyl because at that point, the CD set had a match with the vinyl set. So, but this one, yeah, this is the first time it's available on vinyl. But of course, this is available on the Sgt. Pepper's Super Deluxe box, and it's also available on the 2 CD set. So again, another one, well, maybe they only got the 2 CD set. Well, it's there too. This one, though, I think it's kind of an interesting take, because as Strawberry Fields kind of progresses, it's got all those tempo changes in that, and this is one of those faster tempo change ones, and hearing kind of a full-length version of it is an interesting take on it. So this is kind of a welcome addition here, but it's been available streaming, it's been available on the big box, it's been available on the 2 CD set too. So there we go. Again, with Sgt. Pepper's, we've got track 15, once again available here, and once again available here. So nothing new. It was available at a cheaper price point too. But this is She's Leaving Home, take 1 instrumental. And I did say on this a beautiful arrangement on it. Just, really nice arrangement. Again, with that layering, getting to hear it without all the vocals and other stuff overdubbed over it. Really kind of cool just getting to hear the strings and that, with it. So track 16, and now we're on to disc 2 of the vinyl set on the first side of that. But this is Baby You're a Rich Man, takes 11 and 12. And now we're back to some new material because there hasn't been any Magical Mystery Tour stuff. And I'm really hoping It looks like there's stuff out there, so maybe we do got a super deluxe edition of that, hopefully coming down the road. Oh yes, this is the famous Cokes and Cannabis track where they're requesting Mal to go get them some Cokes, and then they also threw in some cannabis resin too, Mal. And then yeah, I love Paul saying we got that tape for the high court tomorrow. When he asked for the cannabis. And then I love Lennon too, kind of saying we got to get some soul from London. He kind of said on that, but it's kind of a fun take on Baby You're a Rich Man, a song I really like too, and kind of hearing again the layering and development of the song, which the anthologies are so known for. Move on to track 17, again another new one, and I think this is one of my absolute highlights from it. I know TJR said very similar. I knew this was going to be a gem just reading through the track list when it was originally announced that Anthology 4 was coming out, and the first chance we got to look at the track list, and I saw that on there, and I said, that I'm going to want to hear. Again, the layering and development, because this was kind of the rehearsal leading up to the live broadcast of All You Need Is Love. So this is the All You Need Is Love rehearsal for BBC broadcast. I got to ask a question on here because there's that little kind of intro thing. It sounds like a radio or TV announcer kind of comes on, kind of explaining what's going on there. So was this used in some documentary or something somewhere? Has this been available in some sort of film, maybe for television back then? You know, kind of the making of the live broadcast thing. The voiceover on it did sound like kind of more that time period. So I'm thinking that might be, but yes, this is an absolute gem on this album, and glad that it's here. And I'm glad that it kind of delivered, as it was something I was really looking forward to hearing, and I think it has been fun to hear. Moving on to track 18, and we got The Fool on the Hill, Take 5 instrumental. Again, another new one here. This one I wrote, of course it is an instrumental, so we got another instrumental. There's a lot of like clattering of teacups, it sounds like, in the background. You can hear, towards the beginning, you can kind of hear the guiding vocal track. This is one of the instrumentals that it seems to go away. There's several of the instrumentals that you can really hear that guiding vocal track on it, and this one, it does seem to go away after the beginning, but the teacups are there throughout. So and then we got track 19, which is I Am the Walrus, Take 19, strings, brass, clarinet, overdub. Again, another instrumental. It's still fun to hear the layering. Like I said, I know I'm kind of sounding a little negative on the instrumentals, but it's just there were so many of them. But it is really fun for me, at least, to hear the layering and the kind of the development of the song, and kind of, you know, with What's So in Your Mind on that. And speaking of What's So in Your Mind, this one we do got the guiding vocal is very clearly heard throughout, especially on the headphones. I don't think I've listened to this version yet, like in my car or anything yet. So I've only listened to it on the headphones. So I've had that, the vocal right there. And I was almost listening to it the first time, and I was going, am I just, you know, just thinking, like, I know the song so well, is it just in my mind, I'm putting the vocals on there? And I'm like, no, I think that's in the recording there. It's not me doing it. That would be that one on that. And I think a great addition here too. Any of these new ones seem to be a really good addition, even though I think they went a little heavy on the instrumentals on it, but maybe that's the best that they could find, which, you know, I keep trying to be positive that seems like there's a lot out there that we could do a super deluxe edition of these albums that haven't had the super deluxe edition treatment yet, but maybe this is about it too. So moving on to track 20, which will start out side 2 so side 4 altogether for the LPs of disc 2 of the LP set. And this is Hey Bulldog, Take 4 instrumental. So again, an instrumental. This one I said, yeah, we got that guiding vocal track again. Just kind of, as I've been saying, too many instrumentals, but cool to hear the development and layering on this all. So moving on to track 21, and we're out of the new stuff now, and I think that is pretty much it for any of the new stuff, aside from the remixes of Free as a Bird and Real Love. Moving on to track 21, which is Good Night, Take 10, with guitar part from Take 5. This is obviously from the White Album, Super Deluxe Edition. At least any of the White Album stuff, and it seems like there's a lot of White Album stuff on here, but the 2 CD version, which would be the 3 CD with the White Album, was the Easter demos. They didn't use any Easter demos on here because almost the full disc 1 on Anthology 3 is the Easter demos, so which was great to have those back then. We were not complaining, trust me, but now we've got the full thing, and thank goodness they didn't use any of the Easter demos that weren't on Anthology 3 on Anthology 4. These are not going to be available though on the smaller box. These, any from the White Album, this is the only place you were getting them. These are also first time on vinyl too, because the only vinyl version was just the Easter demos too. All these will be first time on vinyl at least. So something there, I guess, to kind of make it good for their edition on this. I thought the background vocals on this were really interesting. The harmonies that they were doing were a little different, and I don't think quite what is on the finished product there. And I love Lennon's comment about, I think I hit a funny note. Always love that version of that. So we're moving on to track 22, again off of the White Album Super Deluxe. Let's see, this is While My Guitar Gently Weeps, third version, take 27. Oh yeah, this is the one where George orders the cheese and marmite sandwich at the beginning, and then at the end, he's, you know, talking about, I tried to be smoky, but I'm not smoky. So I've always got a kick out of the beginning and the end on that one. So, and moving on to track 24, again a White Album one, which is Helter Skelter, second version, White Album Super Deluxe, I should say. Helter Skelter, second version, take 17. And this one, my only thing was the whoop, 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 whoop that Paul keeps doing. I've always got a kick out of that take on it. I thought it was pretty funny. And Helter Skelter seems to really have several different versions of it, which is really kind of cool. And it would be great. I know that's one thing everybody moaned about. They want that 20-minute version or whatever. They would have liked that on Anthology 4, but that would have taken up a whole side of one of the LPs. Would have pushed it to so much less on even though a lot of the stuff we've already had. But anyways, it's just interesting how many different versions of Helter Skelter there are though. Moving on to track 25, which is I Will Take 29. Again, the White Album Super Deluxe Edition is where you will have already found that. This one, I love at the end, and this is just a short little snippet of a thing. It's like barely 30 seconds long. So it feels like they kind of threw this in just kind of as some filler. But I love at the end though, Paul changes the line to I won't, and John chimes in, you will. Which is kind of the opposite, because Paul has always talked about that, how they were such a yin and yang with each other, that, you know, John had a little more cynicism and Paul had a little more of that positivity, and they would kind of balance each other out. And it was usually John that was the I won't, where Paul was always the I will. and so it was kind of fun to hear a little flip-flop on their yin and yang on that, even though they were just joking. So it wasn't like Paul was going to the dark side or something, which John was never in the dark side either. It was just good that he had that cynicism with him too. So, moving on to track 26, again the White Album, and it's Can You Take Me Back, take 1. And this is a really interesting one, because Can You Take Me Back is not a song. It's a snippet, kind of bridging two songs together. But it's always been part of those two songs. It's not really been its own thing. So it's kind of interesting to hear not only more than just the snippet, like a full-length version of it, and the fact that it's now its own thing, I guess. So kind of cool on that. And then track 27 is Julia, 2 Rehearsals, again from the White Album Super Deluxe Edition. I think that's going to be the last one from this, so I'll put this over to the side. This one, I've always got a kick out of John kind of, this is really hard to sing. I think George Martin kind of says, well, it is a pretty difficult one. In fact, he wrote it, but it's a beautiful song though. And I mean, moving on to the next one, which will be from the Let It Be Super Deluxe Edition. So there is that one. And this is Got Back, take 8. And it is also available on, and this one's harder to see that it is, but the Let It Be special edition 2 CD set. There you can see the track list there. But it is also on this version too. So again, the takedown version does have this too. So we can't use that argument that, well, not everybody could afford the Super Deluxe thing. Plus, it's always been available streaming pretty readily too. So just a pretty good take I got back. I really didn't have much more notes on that. Let's see, track 29, again from Let It Be Super Deluxe. This one is only from the Let It Be Super Deluxe, so but now on Anthology 4 too. But this is Octopus's Garden Rehearsal, which is always fun to hear and not associated with Abbey Road, even though that was the album it ended up on. But yes, it was the rehearsal on that. I've always loved this, how much George was trying to help Ringo out. I love it in the Got Back docuseries on Disney Plus and on our Blu-rays, if we own the Blu-rays, I suppose. You know, seeing that with George really trying to work with him and trying to help him out, and them just having fun, like, oh, Ringo made a song here. So I've always kind of liked that one. Track 30 is Don't Let Me Down, the first rooftop performance. Again, obviously available here in the Let It Be Super Deluxe Edition, but once again, also available on the 2 CD version. On that, again, I'll show you the track list because there isn't really much of a marking on the front of this here to let you know it is a different version there. But yes, that one is what we got there, and I just love Don't Let Me Down. So any time I can get a different version of it, I'm happy to accept that. Now, all of these have been available on vinyl. I've been kind of forgetting to say that any of the White Album ones not available on vinyl. Now that we're on to Let It Be and Abbey Road, these have all been available on vinyl. This with Anthology 4 with those White Album ones was first time vinyl, so at least something new, I guess, with that, but something new. Now we're kind of into not really new territory for anything. Let's see, track 31 is You Never Give Me Your Money, take 36. We're moving on to the Abbey Road Super Deluxe Edition with this one, where this one's available from 2, and it is also on the Abbey Road 2 CD edition. So again, it was available in the takedown model. So, oh, I liked Paul's little, like a whole new little song there he had going, and the voice he was using was quite funny on it. The, okay, all right, you win, I'm in love with you little thing at the beginning. I thought that was quite funny. Kind of trying to think of who he kind of sounded like there. There was somebody else. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but that voice that he was doing was quite funny on that. Moving on, though, to track 32. Again, we got the Abbey Road Super Deluxe Edition. This is Here Comes the Sun, take 9. This one was, again, also available on the Abbey Road 2 CD edition. So once again, the takedown model had it available all the time, so maybe they could have found a different one, too, for this. But I do love this song, and anytime I got a chance to listen to this song, in any version of it, I'm always going to take it. And I actually wrote, I adore this song on this one. Not just I like this song, I adore this song. So it's just makes me happy. Anytime I hear it, I love that song. Argument here, I do like it better than Something. So, ooh, hot take there. But moving on to track 33. Again, Abbey Road Super Deluxe Edition. This time it is only the Abbey Road Super Deluxe Edition. The 2 CD does not feature this one, but it is Something, take 39, instrumental, strings only. Very beautiful version of this. Again, that layering and that we get. I didn't hear the guiding vocal on this one, so this one didn't really have that as bad with that. So ever since we've been on the Let It Be and Abbey Road stuff, that was all on disc 3. I forgot to mention that. But we're flipping disc 3 now to side 2 of disc 3, so side 6 altogether of the album. And we got the 3 new songs, Free as a Bird, Real Love, and Now and Then. And of course, it's the new remixes on Free as a Bird and Real Love, which have been getting a lot of chatter, I guess is the best way I'm going to put it. My take on it all is, I'm not mad at it. I prefer the original. This is Free as a Bird I'm speaking of here right now, and a lot of this is going to refer to Real Love too. So I do prefer the original, the flawed original I wrote. I kind of like that as part of its story because it was these tapes Yoko had laying around, these demo tapes that John had made. She gave them to the guys to try to make something of it. So in 1995, I don't think we were expecting that aspect of John's part of it to be perfect. and I kind of like that, the flawed version of it with that. I'll always go back to the original, but it is nice to have a cleaner version of it. So I'm not going to put this down at all with that. And I do think it's interesting too that they did choose that alternate version of George's line in there. Not only do we got the cleaner Lennon vocal, but we do got a little bit of a different lyric in it too, which is kind of an interesting take on it too. So I'm really not mad at it. And same pretty much can be said for Real Love with my thoughts on it. One of my notes is I can at least understand the lyrics now. I've always had such a hard time understanding the lyrics on that song, and listening to it, especially with the headphones, I'm like, oh, that's what he's saying. Okay, I got you now. And pretty much everything I said about the Free as a Bird, I'm going to follow through with on Real Love. Now, the first time I heard them, neither of them I was a big fan of. Now, the second time I listened to it, I'm warming up to it a little more. So I do got to say that maybe give it a couple of listens before we really go to that extreme of, oh, this is horrible. And the nice thing with this is within the collection that we got here too. So if you did get the vinyl set, you did get the CD set, you've got Anthology 1, you've got Anthology 2 in that same box. And both of those have got the original versions of Free as a Bird and Real Love. So it's not that they're trying to erase what was there. So we've got both versions. So we can't complain too hard on that. However, we get to track 36 and no one's talking about this. I am surprised. Dinner with Greedo talked about this a while back because he got kind of a little slip through the streaming sphere there somehow. He got a little preview version of it. I don't think he was supposed to get it, kind of like a bootleg version. He was questioning too, well, maybe this isn't an official version. Maybe I got a bootleg thing and something's off with the mix on this. But now and then, when it first came out a couple years back, was quite brickwalled. I kind of knew that from the beginning. First time I heard it, I'm like, well, that's a little loud on the mix. The dynamics aren't quite there. But it was still really cool, and I think it really pushed the emphasis of everything with it through. But yes, it is having some dynamics. So I think they got some complaints and and they don't mention anything on it, but this almost seems like a remix. It doesn't even seem like a remaster, because it is a whole new take on it. Well, it is a remaster when I think about it. It is truly a remaster because they took the brick walling off. And it is quite dynamic now, but it is a dynamic in a horrible way because there's parts of it that all of a sudden, especially when Paul's vocal comes in with John, that all of a sudden it's just like, where did my phone screw up? Because I've been listening to it streaming. Like, did the volume just all of a sudden shoot down to like nothing? And then all of a sudden, we're back here, and then we're back down to here, and then, and now maybe we're here, and then, it's just so all over the place, and it is horrible. They absolutely ruined it. I don't think it was great before with the brick walling. I'm not a big fan of that either. I know nobody is with, digital copies of stuff with CDs, streaming, but wow. I think they could have found a much better balance than what they did here with this, so. With Real Love, Free as a Bird and Real Love, I said the second listen, I got a little more warmed up to it. My second listen of this version of Now and Then, I hated it even more. So, my other thing on my note, I said, is hopefully it's just a streaming issue. Maybe the physical versions will sound a little better. I don't know, maybe the CD version might not, but maybe the vinyl version will. That is basically the breakdown on the tracks there. So my overall thoughts here, one thing I'm going to point out, there were 17 tracks that were also on the Super Deluxe editions. Of those 17, 7 of them were also available on their 2 CD equivalent. I know a lot of people were kind of putting that argument in defense of them using the Super Deluxe edition stuff that we've already had. Well, people maybe couldn't afford the big box. Well, most people in that case would have bought the 2 CD version. Well, it's been there too on 7 of the 17 of them, so almost half of them. And like I said, all the Super Deluxe boxes have been on a streaming service with every track. So it's not like, I would say 90% of us are probably subscribed to a streaming service. So it's not like we haven't had access to them, even if you couldn't afford the big box. I'm just going to kind of put that out there that, not that I don't think, I think it was a good album overall with the flow of it and everything and what was there, but just knowing that I've got this already somewhere else. So, and more focused with that particular album too. Now, what I also kind of am thinking is I kind of wish they would have done an expanded version, not a new Anthology 4, kind of like what they did with Red and Blue album a couple years back too, where they just expanded the track list. I wish they would have done that with 1, 2, and 3 in this case. Throw Now and Then in front of Anthology 3 like it should have been. And then that way you would have had all the stuff in order. So you would have had all the, help stuff with help stuff. You would have had all the Please Please Me stuff with Please Please Me stuff, so forth and so on. Abbey Road stuff with Abbey Road stuff. It's great that they did kind of keep it in the order of how it was recorded on Anthology 4, but it would have been nice to have it mixed in with 1, 2, and 3's stuff from the equivalent album too. The other thing, I'm still mad about the artwork, and not a lot of people are talking about this. I've seen a few more people talk about it, but I really wish they would have done something a little more with the artwork on it than what they did. Really give it its own identity, but I kind of get too that it is that expanded version of 1, 2, and 3. So we're giving you 1, 2, and 3's artwork because it's representing all those too. Yeah, anyways, that's kind of my take on that too. I know I've already went into that pretty deep with everything else. I kind of wish they would have found some more live recordings, like TV appearances, maybe some more BBC stuff that hasn't been out there. I know there's plenty of it, especially with the MAL technology. They could have cleaned that up if that was the big worry on that. That was one thing with Anthology 1. Even Anthology 2 had a lot of live tracks on it, and that is completely missing, aside from that rooftop performance of Got Back, or Don't Let Me Down. I'm sorry, Don't Let Me Down. That was really the only live thing that we had. I suppose the rehearsal for All You Need Is Love was kind of a live thing too, but yeah, there was like no live tracks hardly at all on Anthology 4, which 1 and 2 both did feature several live tracks. So if they were trying to kind of match the flow and the vibe of it with the other 3 that have been out there already, that's one thing that's really lacking on this. And yeah, I think I've already kind of mentioned this. Kind of my last note here is it seems like there's enough out there to do at least a 1 disc version on a super deluxe edition of these missing albums. So I know a lot of people are saying, well, there isn't a lot more out there that they can do to make a super deluxe thing. Well, at least a 1 disc. I think it's possible with what we've seen here. And if they're going to recycle stuff that have already been on the super deluxe stuff for Anthology 4, I don't see that there's any reason why we can't recycle stuff from Anthology 4 onto the super deluxe boxes too. So there we go. My little take on that. Overall though, it's been fun, re-listening to Anthology, and I did listen to the remastered 1, 2, and 3. Nothing really that caught me too much. That I could definitely tell on 1 especially, some big differences on some of the earlier stuff, and they still left it a little raw enough that I didn't feel like they absolutely ruined its charm. I think that is one thing with Anthology 1, with some of that. I kind of like the roughness of it, that it's just unearthed, been sitting there for, at that time, 30 some years, now 60 some years. I'm not expecting it to sound perfect, and it wasn't expected to be out there available to be heard, but the fact that we unearthed it and now we can see it or hear it, I guess, that I'm not expecting those type of tracks to be perfect. Now, like some of the live recordings and stuff, those I think you clean up and make them great. And that's why I think they kind of missed out on this. I did have a whole thing on why didn't they use this? Why didn't they use that? And I realized as I was writing it, a lot of the things I was thinking of maybe aren't quite good for Anthology, but would be good for a new Rarities album. So stay tuned on that. I think I'm going to do a video on the possibility of maybe in a few years here, they might do a Rarities reissue and expanded update, or maybe a Rarities 2 album, because I think there's enough floating out there right now that they could almost justify that. As some of the tracks I was looking at, possibly that could have been on Anthology 4, were stuff I was thinking of that were on the original Rarities album, the US version. And the more I got looking at it, I'm like, that makes more sense on actual Rarities album than on Anthology. But yeah, the live stuff, I mean, there's so much out there. BBC, TV appearances, Shea Stadium, Hollywood Bowl, Tokyo. I think there were so many different live performances that we know are floating out there. We know there's probably more tracks than what has been on the albums we've got. We also know now there's a pretty good technology that can clean that stuff up. So, or maybe they're holding out to just do their own whole albums on that, and maybe that's why they didn't include it here. But they also did recycle a bunch of stuff that's been available elsewhere already for Anthology 4. So what's the matter if they take a track or two that might end up on a future album? So I don't know. I'm a little puzzled on certain aspects of it. But overall, I think so far I'm still a little underwhelmed. I'm waiting for the docuseries. Can't wait for that. Hopefully my CD set will ship soon. I'm still waiting on that. I'm glad I did order the one CD or the standalone Anthology 4 at least. So at least I got one physical version of it. But I do kind of 1, 2, and 3 on their standalone things here kind of I feel like need a little pal, not just the new stuff in the box. So so they'll have their own little pal there to sit with them too, along with the box set there. Anyways, I'm going to get fully wrapping up. Before I do that though, once again, I want to thank all my subscribers and thanks to you new subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and do hit the notification bell so you know when I got new videos coming out. Also, please give the video a like if you liked it, and like I always say, if you stuck around to this point, you must like it, so please give it a like, and do leave a comment. I love having a discussion with everybody. Let me know your thoughts on Anthology 4. Have you been enjoying it? You kind of wish they would have used some other tracks not previously used on the Super Deluxe editions, and as I found out on a lot of the 2 CD editions too? Or do you think it's pretty good just how it is? Let me know your thoughts, and let me know, did you get your CD set or that yet from the Beatles store? Because I don't know what is going on here. This is just bizarre. I don't know. I'm getting nervous. They claimed it was available yet, and it wasn't, and they're going to be sending me a message saying yours isn't available anymore. Sorry. But hey, I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to get fully signing out. I'm Beetle Dustino signing out.